We will begin our ceremony today by our first welcoming remarks by Tyler LeBlanc. Tyler.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tyler LeBlanc, and I would like to welcome all of our guests to Hampstead Middle School. Before we get into our assembly, I would just like to thank some people. Veterans here, would you please stand for an ovation by our students and staff? Very much for your service. Our very own 8th grade Blues Social Studies class, please stand for an ovation. Thank you for organizing this assembly. Our lunchman Joe, would you please rise for an ovation? Thank you for taking initiative in organizing our after-assembly treats. We appreciate what you and our other cafeteria staff do here every day. 4 days from now, we'll officially mark the 64th annual celebration of Veterans Day. Just a little history for you. President Dwight D. Eisenhower officially changed the name of the holiday from Armistice Day to Veterans Day. Veterans Day commemorates the World War I armistice on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, to remember and pay tribute to those who have so proudly served our country. Today, Americans call this Veterans Day. President Woodrow Wilson enacted Armistice Day in 1919. Armistice Day commemorates the end of World War I, and President Wilson desires for our nation citizens to celebrate peace and to honor soldiers' service in what he thought was the war to end all wars. Finally, in 1938, Congress established an Armistice Day as an official holiday at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month to honor all the American women and men who made sacrifices to ensure peace. We've all gathered here today for one reason: the men and women, young and old, who sacrificed their lives to protect us. They could have found a nice job, settled down with a nice family, and started a building life with no interruptions. But no, they gave that up to protect us, this school, the air we breathe, the soil we walk on, and the freedoms we take advantage of. They saw the United States as more than a place to live, but a place they should protect and a place they should take pride in. That's what you should see in our veterans here today. Now would you please rise for the Pinkerton Junior ROTC as they post the colors and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance by Maddie St. Alge, followed by our national anthem.
Post. Present. Arms.
Please face the front for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's
Right there.
Reflections of our grade 6 students. Grade 6.
When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner almost 200 years ago, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true as they were then. Throughout this nation's history, America's soldiers, sailors, armsmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, to turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to more than 650,000 American service members who died at battle, or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the 25 million veterans still living today. These words are inscribed on the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they had never met. Those words apply equally to many of our World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and Gulf War veterans as well. They apply to today's active duty service members, tomorrow's veterans, who are helping to maintain peace throughout the world. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay it. Today, we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave.
What it means to be brave. B. Being true to America. R. Reassuring civilians that we are protected. A. America the beautiful for which they stand. V. Very brave men and women fighting for our country every day. E. Even the smallest of voices can be the strongest.
Freedom by Devin Blank.
And Alex DeHaan. Freedom can be anything. It's the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraints. It's the ability to run and embrace the fresh air with no worries. Freedom means to be yourself. Never give up. Be persistent. We are who we want to be, not what others force us to be, thanks to our soldiers. To free and freedom means happiness and fun, and to not be under the control or in the power of another. This also pertains the ability to act or not act as one wishes. The D-O-M in freedom isn't for us, but for the ones that give us this word to say without fear.
The letter D stands for democracy. In some places, the citizens don't choose their jobs, what house they live in, or even vote. The government does that for them. We are all so lucky that we get the opportunity to vote and do what we love. The letter O stands for opportunities, a set of circumstances that make it possible to do anything. The letter M stands for people who will always be memorable to us. They are heroes who are willing to die to keep us safe. Thank you, soldiers all around America, for what you have given to us and our families. We are who we want to be, not what others force us to be. Thanks to you, our sons.
Sixth grade students took the time to reflect about what it means to be a veteran. After watching the video you're about to see, 3 servicemen from 3 different experiences protecting our country, the students chose one of the following words to reflect upon: remember, America, veteran, and freedom.
I'd like to welcome our distinguished guests, our Hampstead faculty and staff, parents and students. Welcome to the 2018 Hampstead Middle School Veterans Day ceremony. I am humbled and proud to gather us together to honor those men and women who serve in the military to guard and protect us here at Hampstead Middle School, New Hampshire, the United States of America, and around the world. Students, given the many concerning events facing our nation today, I want you to know that there are many protectors and helpers surrounding us here today, reminding us that we are loved, we are safe, and we have hope. Please look around you to see, really see all the people that are here to protect and help us. Those people are our veterans, Chef Joe, Mr. Ott, our maintenance director, Lieutenant Colonel Stedman, Commander Gassaway, our teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, support staff, and all the emergency management people that have showed up to to be with us this evening, or this morning. Oh, dear God, sorry. I got all filled with emotion. I would like to just ask you to look around and know that we are loved, we are safe, and we have hope. As a school community, we gather with a collective respect and heartfelt gratitude for those who have protected us and continue to protect us. We pay tribute to our country's heroes from wars past and wars present. We put time aside today during our school day and with a day off on Monday to remember and honor those who have given so much of their lives for the freedom that we enjoy every single day. We observe this day together as a community to celebrate and honor America's veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for all Americans. Today, we are honored to welcome our distinguished guest speaker, Commander Corey Gassaway of the United States Navy. Commander Gassaway is here to share his story of service during his past 22 years. In addition to his current role as Commanding Officer of the Navy Operational Support Center in Manchester, his most important role is as the father of Hampstead students, Sam, Micah, and Jude. Also, welcome, Mrs. Gassaway. We know the sacrifices that you have made throughout the years to keep our country safe by your patience and support. So thank you. Please welcome this year's guest speaker, American hero and Hampstead parent, Commander Corey Gassaway.
Good morning. As Principal Denola said, my name is Commander Corey Gassaway. The guys that I fly with, they call me Shoe, so kind of go by both of them. Whatever you want to call me is fine. I'd like to thank Principal Denola and faculty and staff for inviting me to speak today. I joined the military in 1996 when I was 18 years old. I played football for the Naval Academy, and I spent 4 years learning how to be a naval officer before I graduated in 2000. When I joined the military, the United States was in a time of relative peace. Most of you weren't born yet. I don't know if any of you were born yet, except for the teachers. The Berlin Wall had been torn down. The Soviet Union had broken up into a bunch of smaller nations. The First Gulf War was over, and we had no real major enemy for the first time in over 50 years. Things were relatively easy. After various training commands, I reported to my first ship in May of 2001. I was on my honeymoon on September 11th when the World Trade Centers were attacked. That day, the world instantly changed. We were immediately thrust from a time of peace into a new generation of war. I was called home from my honeymoon for an immediate deployment, and I've spent the last 17 years serving in various conflicts. In that time, I've been a gunnery officer on board a Navy combat ship. I've been a pilot in 3 separate squadrons, flying the E-2C radar-based plane off the aircraft carrier in the C-130 cargo plane. After ISIS invaded Iraq in 2012, I served as the lead crisis action planner and the special operations planner for Iraq and Syria, where I was responsible for all special operations in northern Iraq. I was also responsible for the planning and distribution of over $450 million in supplies and humanitarian assistance to Iraqi citizens that were fleeing the city of Mosul. Currently, I'm the commanding officer of the Navy Operational Support Center in Manchester, where I have 281 sailors from 3 states, 12 different units, Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. Those units consist of doctors, nurses, security forces, ship repair teams, intelligence units, a mobile operations team. I also have 14 sailors deployed worldwide right now in Afghanistan, Iraq, Djibouti, Germany, Bahrain, Kuwait, Japan, and Cuba. 20 years ago, I couldn't have even pointed out some of those countries on a map. Today, I've operated in over 40 countries on 6 different continents, every continent except Antarctica. I've made 7 extended deployments, including 5 combat deployments in the fight against terrorism. It's been a very challenging and a very rewarding career. Being in the military is very different than being in other jobs. We don't have friends in the military, we have families. My family is made up of a bunch of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who have deep bonds through shared experience and shared purpose. It's also made up of the families that we leave behind when we go. When we deploy, it's actually usually harder on our families than it is on us. We go overseas to do the job that we've been trained to do, and we leave them behind. They have to learn to adjust to the life without us at home. They wait for the call when we say if and when we're coming home. They have to carry on their everyday lives here while their thoughts are with us overseas. My boys have many adopted aunts and uncles that are serving all over the world right now. These are friends that are so close that we can go months and sometimes years without seeing each other. And when we finally do see each other again, it's like seeing your brother or sister. We never say goodbye in the military. We say see you later because we know at some point our paths are going to cross again somewhere else. Being a member of the military also usually means multiple moves, having to start over at a new location many times, and long time spent apart as a family. My 3 sons are here right now in the front row, Sam, Micah, and Jude. When we moved to New Hampshire, it was the 9th time that Sam had moved in 12 years. It was the 7th time Micah had moved in 10 years. Sam has lived in 6 different states and has been in 5 different schools. And until this assignment, I had been gone for over half his life. Jude is 7. He's lived in 5 houses in 4 states. My wife and I have moved 14 times since we've been married 18 years. They're used to having to drop into a new town and instantly join a new sports team or a new club or a new church group so they can quickly meet friends because they know we're not going to be here very long. They're also used to having to take on a lot of extra responsibility. They're used to cleaning the house, cooking the meals, taking care of each other. I've had to look Samuel in the eyes many times and tell him he's the man of the house until I come home. That's a lot of responsibility. He's been doing it most of his life. Sorry. It's no secret that my boys are pretty big guys. They like to eat and they can tell you their life story through food. They're experts on the differences between the smoked tri-tip steak in California, Philadelphia cheesesteak, Texas barbecue, and the steak tips that are in New Hampshire. My wife can tell you the difference between Gulf shrimp, Creole crawfish in the Florida Panhandle, and New England lobster. They can tell you the difference between the hamburgers of Five Guys, Whataburger, In-N-Out, Sonic, Boss Burger. But they'll also tell you that their favorite hamburger is from home because we've taken pieces of everything that we've learned everywhere we've gone and mashed it up into something special, and that's what we call home. My boys aren't Texans, even though Sam was born in Texas. They aren't Rhode Islanders, even though Micah and Jude were born in Rhode Island. They aren't Californians, even though they've all lived there twice. They are simply Americans. The theme of food has played a very important role in my job, too. A man named Greg Mortensen once wrote a book called 3 Cups of Tea about his experiences in Afghanistan. One of the major themes of that book was that people from all over the world are just people. Mortensen stated that if you take time to have tea with someone on 3 different occasions and talk to them to better understand who they are, then you can solve most of your problems. If you take the time to get to know each other and understand each other's perspectives, a lot of conflict can be avoided. You may not agree with their perspective, and that's okay. But if we develop mutual understanding of each other, we can often agree to disagree without having to fight about it. Sometimes conflict is unavoidable, and when that happens, the military is here to fight when we have to. However, most soldiers and sailors will tell you that we would much rather solve our problems peacefully through discussion than with weapons. In 2007, I was in Nagasaki, Japan, visiting the site of where we dropped an atomic bomb in 1945. Even though 2 generations have passed since we dropped that weapon, the Japanese people in general and the people in Nagasaki specifically are very distrustful of Americans, even though our countries are now friends. One night, my friend and I were walking into a restaurant after we had been visiting the museum where the bomb was dropped. The restaurant was called the Cactus Rose, and we walked in without noticing. There was a sign on the door that's on some Japanese restaurant that says no gaijin. It's a picture of an X. It means no Americans. We didn't see it, and we happened to walk into the restaurant. As soon as we walked in, we immediately knew that we weren't welcome. It was like a scene from the movies where the music stops and everybody stops what they're doing and they looks up and you know that you're not where you're supposed to be. We were about to turn around and leave the club when this young Japanese man came up and tapped my friend on the shoulder. He started talking to us in a language that we didn't understand. We didn't understand what he was wanting us to do, but he held his arm up like this. It took us a second when we figured out that he was asking my friend to arm wrestle him. My friend didn't know what to do. He looked at me, he's like, what do I do? And I was like, I think you do it. It's like, you can do it, but put on a good show, but whatever you do, make sure that he wins. So my friend did. My friend went over to a table and put his arm up and arm wrestled the guy, and the guy was about half his size and had no business winning. My friend put on a good show, and eventually he let the guy slam his hand into the table. As soon as he did, the entire room shot up into cheers, and this guy was now the hero of all of his friends in the room. And we're like, okay, that was cool. And we were walking out, and this was a karaoke club. They sing karaoke in Japan. It's a big deal to them. They take it very seriously. Very, very seriously. This other guy came up and tapped my friend on the shoulder and asked him if we would sing. So we did. And we got up and we sang Sweet Caroline as loud as we could, and I'm sure it sounded absolutely terrible. I'm sure it sounded like 2 cats fighting in an alley, but afterwards we were trying to leave again. We said, okay, thank you, sorry that we were in your establishment. This guy came up and tapped my friend on the shoulder again and asked him to sing one more song with him. So my friend got on the stage and said, I'm not doing it again. So I was standing there with my mouth shut, and the owner of the establishment came over and in a very broken accent asked me where I was from. So I said, I'm from Texas. This guy said, oh, so you're a cowboy, like Clint Eastwood. And there was no way I was going to say no to him, even though I grew up in a city with about 1 million people in it. I was like, yeah, I guess I'm a cowboy, like Clint Eastwood. So he took a hat from behind the counter, old dusty cowboy hat, and put it on my head. Said, no, now you're Clint Eastwood. So about that time, my friend had finished singing, and we were getting ready to move on, and they thanked us for being there. In 15 minutes, we had gone from being unwelcome in their establishment to accepted because we'd taken a few minutes to get to know each other. And we actually took a dollar bill and we both signed it. Said to our friends at the Cactus Rose, thank you, Funshine and Shoe. That's our call sign, so we signed the dollar bill like that. The guy tacked it up on his wall, and which was an incredible sign of respect, seeing as how an hour before that we weren't even allowed to be in there. And then one night, a few years later, one of my other buddies called. One of Sam Micah's adopted uncles called and said, "Shoo, you're not going to believe this. It's Nudo." It was the middle of the night. It's a phone number that I didn't recognize. It's like, "This is Nudo. I'm in this club in Japan called the Cactus Rose." He said, "There's a dollar bill there on the wall signed by you and Funshine with a note that says, 'From our American friends.'" And I asked him if the sign on the window saying "No Americans Allowed" was still there. He said it wasn't. Apparently the manager had taken it down after we left. So my friend and I had inadvertently walked into a place where we were not allowed, and the perspectives of both groups of people had changed drastically because we'd taken a few minutes to get to know each other. We gave each other a little bit of a chance, and we recognized that neither one of the groups were bad people. We just had different perspectives. So in my career, I've had sushi in Japan with Japanese officers, pizza in Italy with Italians. I've had lamb and hummus in Dubai and Kuwait. I've drank tea in Bahrain. I've eaten kangaroo in Australia. I've had Thai food in Thailand that was so hot it would melt your face off. I've had shepherd's pie in Ireland. I've had gyros in Greece. I've had ceviche in Colombia. grape leaves in Israel, and I've had camel in Jordan. It's good, it's actually really good. So the food was amazing, but it was more than that. The meal served as a way to bring people together to have discussions and gain understanding of each other. I was stationed in Newport for one of my tours, and I was a student in a class of about 45 officers from different countries. Some of those countries had great mistrust for each other and some absolute hatred for each other. We had officers from Asia, South America, the Middle East, former Soviet Union, and Europe. And the goal of the entire class was to bring all these officers together and help us to gain an understanding of each other. And for a year, we spent getting to know each other. At the end of that year, I saw the officer from Iraq and Israel give each other a hug. Before that class, those two countries didn't even recognize each other as human beings, and they had now become friends. I also saw the officers from India and Pakistan, two countries with deep, deep, deep mistrust of each other, become good friends. We figured out that it doesn't matter what color your skin is, what language you speak, what religion you practice, or what you believe. In the end, we are all just people who want to be happy, and cooperation usually leads to happiness much quicker than conflict. As Tyler, wherever Tyler is, as Tyler told us earlier, on November 11th, 1919, President Woodrow Wilson issued the message to all Americans on the first Armistice Day in honor of the veterans who served in World War I. In 1945, that idea expanded to include all veterans from all conflicts, and in 1954, the day was officially changed to Veterans Day. This is a day that we set aside every year to honor the men and women who currently serve and have served in any branch of the armed services. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines are all recognized on this day, not just for what they've done, but also what they stand ready to do. As of this week, there are 2.1 million people in the U.S. military. Right now, almost 200,000 of them are deployed worldwide. They're not just serving in countries that you may have heard of, like Afghanistan and Iraq, Syria. They're actually U.S. men and women serving in 177 countries all across the world. Countries that you may never have heard of. Places like Tajikistan, Uganda, Chad, Djibouti, Bahrain, El Salvador, the Seychelles, Sri Lanka, the Maldives, and Mali. U.S. military personnel are on every continent in the world right now. Not every person in the military has actually been in conflict. Actually, only about 10% of the military has actually fought in a war. The other 90% are required to keep our supplies flowing, to keep our training up, to take care of our ships and vehicles, and to provide administrative and medical care. One of our main missions in the military is humanitarian assistance, where we help people who need assistance after major disasters. Two of the operations that I participated in included providing food, water, and medical aid to the people of the Philippines following a massive typhoon in 2008, and distributing blankets, food, and water to over 80,000 displaced people fleeing the Iraqi city of Mosul after their city was destroyed by ISIS. We also spent a lot of time teaching other nations to defend and take care of themselves. Right now we have over 5,000 service members in the country of Africa, in the continent of Africa, drilling water wells, providing medical care, training their militaries, helping to build villages for the African people. We find that by spending time assisting other countries during times of peace, it can sometimes prevent times of war. Veterans Day is about remembering and thanking the men and women of the armed services for their sacrifice. New Hampshire is actually the only place that I have ever lived where I'm routinely thanked for my service. And it's amazing to me. Sometimes I stop in the grocery store or stop at the gas station on the way home and I'm in uniform, and I'll have people thank me. When I come here sometimes to watch a cross-country meet or to see the boys at school, it's not uncommon for one of you to come up and thank me for my service. Mr. Mayu actually called me by my rank a few weeks ago when he saw me. And Principal Denola calls me Commander, even though I consider both of them to be my friends. Most Americans don't even know what the ranks of the military are, but they take the time to get to know us and to actually call us by our rank, which is an incredibly respectful gesture, and I truly appreciate it. When we first moved here, I told my wife that it was strange that people were thanking me for my service. I didn't really know what to do with it. I'm amazed at the respect that you show the men and women who are in uniform, and I want to say thank you for recognizing us. Every time you thank a soldier or a sailor for their service, it helps us remember why we do what we do. I want to remind you, whenever you see one of these ladies and gentlemen behind me wearing one of their blue hats that says Vietnam, World War II, Korea, Afghanistan, or Iraq, remember to thank them, because they're the ones who came before us. Even if they aren't in uniform, they have defended our country that we live in now, and they're the ones who have bought the freedoms that you enjoy. So remember to thank them when you see them as well. While most of the 2 million people serving in the military have never been in conflict, every one of them stands ready to go to conflict if necessary. And we've all sworn an oath to do so. My oath, the oath that I have to take as an officer, states, I solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of which I'm about to enter. That sworn oath is my promise to you, that I will put my life on the line to protect the rights guaranteed by our founding fathers against any enemy. It's a promise to serve this country honorably and to do the absolute best that I can to keep her safe. It does not say that I won't make mistakes. I've made many, many mistakes in the 20 years I've been serving. It's only my promise that I'm going to do my best. It's also my promise that I do this as a volunteer. One of the things about our military right now is that we are an all-volunteer service. Every one of the 2.1 million members is a volunteer. While there have been times in our country's history that we've had to call people into service involuntarily, we've been at war now for the past 15 years and we're still in all-volunteer service. There's a parable that says, greater love has no man than this, that he's willing to lay down his life for his friends. The servicemen and women of this country are willing to put ourselves in danger and risk death because we love this country and our fellow countrymen. My oath is not to the president, it's not to a political party, it's to the ideas and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution. Rights like the freedom to speak freely, to go to church if you want to and wherever you want to, the freedom to disagree with the government, the freedom to vote and be counted. You all have the right to life, liberty, and to make the best choices you can to seek your own happiness. These are the rights that we in the military defend on a daily basis. Every day, my 2 million brothers and sisters will always stand ready to defend your rights. You don't have to agree with us. You don't have to like us. You don't have to agree with the president or the Congress or the Supreme Court. You don't have to agree with your local governments. But you do have a right to participate in that government and to make it better. You have every right to be your own person and to speak your own mind. You have the right to form your own opinions and to have your opinions heard. This country is the only country in the world that I know of where you can speak out against the leadership. You can burn our flag, you can spit in my face as a sailor, and we will still defend your right to do that. I've been to countries all over the world. I've been to places where women cannot speak when they're outside of the home. I've been to countries where people of different skin colors aren't allowed in the same places. I've been to places where if you disagree with the local government or the local religion, it will put you in jail or kill you. I've been to countries where girls are not allowed to go to school, and countries where boys as young as 13 are required to join the military. I've been to countries where people are told who they will marry and what they will study. We may not always be right, but to paraphrase Stephen Decatur, this is our country. May she ever be right, but right or wrong, this is our country. I'm telling you this because as a veteran, I very much appreciate it when you thank me for my service. But if you really want to honor these veterans, prepare yourselves now to inherit the country that we're leaving for you. We've proudly defended this country for you, and you will be the ones making the decisions for the country in a few short years. You don't have to join the military. You don't have to work for the government. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to get a job to be a citizen of this country. You don't have to do anything. That's your right. But if you really want to honor veterans, get ready to participate in this democracy. One of the major themes in Greg Mortensen's book was the importance of schools. Before the year 2005, most girls were not allowed to go to school in Afghanistan. There were very few schools for the boys to attend, and the schools that they went to were taught by a religious leader in a language that they couldn't speak. By building schools and bringing in teachers, We're allowing both boys and girls to attend school and trying to educate future generations. Education leads to understanding. Understanding leads to dialogue. Dialogue leads to cooperation, and cooperation often prevents conflict. You have an active role in that dialogue. Thomas Jefferson once said, "The good sense of the people will always be found to be the best army." In other parts of the world, children are willing to walk miles to go to school. Some are willing to work long hours afterwards. After school, you get to play sports, or go to school dances, or go home and play Fortnite. These kids go to work in factories or on farms so their families can survive. Please don't take that privilege for granted. Study hard. If I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be to pay more attention in school. I use things like physics and algebra every day that I wish I had studied when I was your age. My job would be a lot easier now if I had studied when I was your age. Have opinions and understand why you have those opinions. You don't have to believe something because your parents tell you or because your friends tell you. You don't have to believe something because somebody on TV told you or because they shouted it loudly, because you read about it on Instagram or Twitter, whatever social media platform you're on. Just because your favorite celebrity says something, that doesn't make it right. In most cases, they don't have any more information than you do. They just have a louder microphone to say it with. Ask questions, do research. And when you form an opinion, understand why you have that opinion. Understand that if someone else disagrees with you, that doesn't make them a bad person. Some of my best friends and I completely disagree about a lot of things. While we disagree about it, that doesn't mean one of us is right and one of us is wrong. It just means that we have different perspectives. Sometimes there is no right or wrong, there are only opinions. Learn to read and speak well. The average American reads on about a 7th grade level. Study the government, understand your rights. Hundreds of thousands of veterans have fought to defend the rights protected by the Constitution for the last 242 years. President George Washington once said, "A primary object should be the education of our youth in the science of government. In a republic, what species of knowledge can be equally important? And what duty more pressing than communicating it to those who are to be the future guardians of the liberties of our country?" You are all going to be the future guardians of the liberties of our country. Study history. There are millions of examples of people who have done things right and wrong. Learn from their mistakes so that you don't have to make them, and learn what they did right so that you can build on it. If you truly want to honor these veterans, value those rights, because they were not easily won and they take constant defense to maintain. Please don't take them for granted. Participate and be an active citizen. Principal Denola also asked me to explain to me that some of you are working on your personal learning goals. Setting goals and having the discipline to achieve them is something that you should learn really early in your life. In the military, we call our goals objectives. We train very hard to be able to clearly state what our objectives are. We use the acronym SMART. We make our objectives specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. If we state something in our objectives that doesn't fit that acronym, we rework the objective. In World War II, when we were fighting the Germans, our first objective wasn't to jump into Berlin and beat the Germans in their capital. There's no way that we could have done that. To get to that goal, we had to set smaller objectives. First, we had to train and supply over 160,000 men to be able to get to that fight. Then we had to set the goal of moving him to England, and then we had to set the goal of getting him to the beaches of Normandy. Then we had to set the goal of moving through France, through Paris, and finally into Germany to ultimately defeat the Germans. Setting those individual smaller goals took over 5 years. The process of setting goals is similar in our own lives. When I was 4 years old, my father worked for an airline. I was around airlines from the time I was 4, before I was even in school, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I wanted to be a pilot. When I was 12, I saw a movie called Top Gun. It was the first time that I knew that you could land an airplane on a boat, and I knew immediately that that's what I wanted to do with my life. At that point, that was just a very broad dream. It wasn't even a goal. It's just a dream. As I got into high school, that dream started to turn into my goal. I didn't work exceptionally hard in high school, not as hard as I should have. But I had decent grades, and I was blessed enough to have a football coach who knew exactly what I needed. He got me an interview with the coach at the Naval Academy. Until that day, I didn't even know what the Naval Academy was. But Coach Scott looked me in my eyes and came in and set me down and said, we're going to pay for your college, we're going to pay for your clothes, we're going to pay for your books, we're going to pay for your meals. And when you graduate, we're going to give you a job for 5 years, we're going to let you fly airplanes. And there was no way that I could say no to that. So from that day on, my dream of becoming a Navy pilot turned into my goal. And from my first day at Annapolis, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I was going to graduate and be a Navy pilot. That was my goal. My goal was specific. I was going to graduate. I was going to be a pilot. It was measurable. I had 4 years in college that were broken up into semesters of 6 weeks each that I could see where I was going. It was relevant. I wanted to be a Navy pilot, and I was in a Navy school to be a pilot. And it was timely. I was going to graduate in 4 years. I knew exactly how long each step was going to take. The only problem with my specific goal is that it wasn't attainable. Because to be a Navy pilot, you have to have perfect vision. At the time, I was legally blind. Without my glasses or contacts, I couldn't even read the first letter on the chart. I knew it was an E because it's always an E. But if it had been some other letter, I wouldn't have even known what the top letter on the chart was. So even though I had a very clearly defined goal, there was no way that I could achieve it. Because my goal wasn't attainable, I had to adjust my goal to something that was. So I settled on being a naval flight officer, who are the guys who ride around in the back of the airplanes and work on the systems. It wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. I wouldn't be the one at the controls, but I'd still get to be in an airplane and I'd still get to land on the boat, which was still pretty cool. I changed my goals to fit into the SMART rules, and I found something that I was able to achieve. Unfortunately, the next thing that happened was I broke my back playing football. So the doctors told me that I couldn't be in an airplane because I couldn't be in an ejection seat. My goal became momentarily unattainable because I couldn't be in the ejection seat, and I had to again change my goal. When I graduated the Naval Academy, I had not given up on my goal of being a Navy pilot, or at least being in the Navy aircraft. I just had to find another way to do it. For 2 years, I went to a Navy ship as a surface warfare officer. I was a ship driver for 2 years while I was rehabbing. I saw multiple doctors and went through multiple years of rehab, and I finally found a doctor who said that my back was okay and that he would sign off to let me be in a Navy aircraft. I also had to sign a sheet of paper for the U.S. government that said if I eject, I fully admit that I'm probably not going to walk away, and I'm okay with that. I had to take responsibility for that. So I had found a way to get back into an aircraft, and the next thing that happened was the Navy changed its rules again to say that you can get corrective eye surgery. And I was one of the first Navy pilots who had laser corrective eye surgery. I went from one day being legally blind to having perfect vision, and they let me be a pilot after that. So I had changed my goal slightly, but by continuing to press on towards it, after 9 years, I finally landed on a boat for the first time. Setting your own personal goals should be no different. All of you should be setting your own personal goals. Some of you may want to go to an Ivy League school. There's plenty of them. Harvard is right down the street here. Or I guess right down the highway. Some of you may want to sing and dance on Broadway. Some of you may want to be professional sports stars. Those are excellent starting points. Think about what it's going to take to get there. You don't just wake up one day and be a professional athlete. It takes years of work to get there. If you want to go to an Ivy League school, you're going to need to get good grades. You're going to have to take advanced classes. If you want to get into those advanced classes, you're going to be competing against all the other students who also want to be in those classes. So you have to get high enough marks to get in. You're also going to need to do a bunch of extracurricular activities. You're going to have to be in clubs, sports, drama, church groups. Even if you do all of those things, you're still competing. Harvard only lets in 1 out of every 13 students who apply, and you have to be in the top 2% of students in the entire country to even apply. You cannot wake up halfway through your senior year of high school and decide that you want to go to Harvard. If that's your goal, it has to start now, and you have to start preparing yourself now to achieve that goal. Same rules apply for every other goal. If you want to be a professional baseball player, You have to start now. Mookie Betts did not wake up halfway through his 20s and say, I want to be the best player in Major League Baseball. He started when he was your age. This summer I was watching John Hamlin actually pitch at baseball practice, and the coach set up a tee with a ball on it. And John was on the pitcher's mound, and the goal was to knock the ball off the tee. And John, we probably threw 30 balls, maybe. And John finally hit it on about the 30th pitch, knocked the ball off the tee. It was really cool to see. Chris Sale's doing that about 25 out of every 30 times, so you got work to do. All right? But you start now. And if you have those goals, you have to start now if you want to make that happen. Last couple things I'll talk about. Last night, America participated in one of our most treasured privileges. Millions of people cast votes last night to elect representatives, senators, governors, and their local governments. People made their voice heard about the direction they want the country to go in the future. As a member of the military, I'm still a private citizen. I'm allowed to vote. It's my right and my privilege to vote. However, in the military, by law, we cannot be political. We're bound by the Constitution. We don't make policy decisions. We can't campaign for local candidates or participate in any branch of government. We can give advice to the President and to the Congress when they ask for it, but the leader of the U.S. Navy is the Secretary of the Navy, and he's a civilian. My Commander-in-Chief is the President of the United States, who's also a civilian. Congress is made up entirely of civilians, and they're the ones who give us our money. They're the ones who tell us when to go fight. They're the ones who train us and equip us. We take our orders from the civilians who are in charge of the country. We do not and we cannot influence foreign policy decisions. I'm telling you this because it's important, because you probably won't join the military. Less than 1% of the people in America are actually in the military. However, at some point, you're going to be a civilian who's in a position to directly affect the military. And you will all have the right to vote on the civilians that we put in place to do that. Please, please, please value that right. And understand that when you put people in Congress or into the presidency, they get to make the decisions about when we fight, where we fight, and how we fight. We cannot make that decision for ourselves. For some of you 8th graders, you could find yourself in my position in about 5 years. I joined the military when I was 18. I've led missions where we've had an 18 or a 20-year-old soldier or sailor in charge of them, and we've sent them into a village in some part of the world. We said, go out there and do the best that you can. They may not have a college degree, they may not have had advanced training, but we trust them to go out there and make the best decisions they can. If they make a mistake, if an 18 or 20-year-old makes a mistake on the battlefield, it can have global implications. If we mess up, it can mess up years of goodwill that we've been trying to have with the country. We trust them to go out and make those decisions, and that could be you in a few short years. Please take the time to study now and understand the world. Have fun in school, but work hard and study because your time to shape the world is coming quickly. Principal Denola, thank you for allowing me to speak today, and thank you for welcoming my family into this community. Thank you to the teachers of Hampstead Middle School for teaching my 2 older sons, and thank you to the students for welcoming my boys into your school. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for the respect that you've shown me and the other members in the military. You are the reason that we do what we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've been incredibly respectful. Thank you very, very much. And now we have a music selection called Hero in This Place by the Hampstead Middle School Jazz Choir under the direction of Maestro Fisher.
Hope still abides in me.
E is for encouraging.
T is for tough.
E is for excellent. R is for respect.
A is for astonishing.
N is for noble. S is for strong.
Next, I'd like to welcome Lieutenant Colonel Stedman for the VFW essay recognitions and winners. Lieutenant Colonel Stedman.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I want to say it's a pleasure and an honor to be back at Hampstead Middle School. Even though I'm a teacher over at Pinkerton Academy, I live in Hampstead, I've lived here a long time, and I've had 5 kids graduate from Hampstead Middle School. So I spent a lot of time in those bleachers at a lot of sporting events and other activities here in Hampstead, so this is great. We brought the Pinkerton Academy Junior ROTC Color Guard this morning that posted the colors, and they'll be retiring them in a little while. All 5 of them are all Hampstead Middle School graduates also. I'll put on another hat that I hold, and that's being the commander of our Hampstead Veterans of Foreign Wars, or VFW, post here in Hampstead. And each year we have a couple different contests. One of those is for high schoolers, another one's for teachers, another one's for scouts, and the other one is for middle school students. It's called the Patriots Pen Essay Contest. So this year we have a contest. It's headed up by Mrs. Wolf in the social studies classes, and this year we had 61 students write essays for us to judge. And it's our job in the VFW post to go ahead and come up with the top 3 winners. So I want to go ahead and announce them today, and we have gifts for each of them. So at this time, the 3rd place winner in our Patriots Pen Contest, Sam Gasaway. Yeah. Sam's received a $25 check from the Hampstead VFW. The 2nd place winner, Tony LeBlanc. Tony's received a $50 check from the Hampstead VFW. And the 1st place winner that I'd like to introduce, she is going to go ahead and read her winning essay to you. So the 1st place winner in the Hampstead VFW Post Patriots Pen Contest, Sophia Martinez.
As I stand by the flag, hand over heart, I think about everything in the past that has led to the present. From the beginning of this country, our revolution, where it all began, was about us freeing ourselves from an unjust government, and our founding fathers strived to make freedom something that will always be present. I honor the American flag because of the opportunities it gives us to salute the principles of justice, and because it stands for what unites us, not what divides us. One reason I honor the flag is because of the opportunities it gives everyone to succeed and thrive. America is known as the land of opportunity, and we should be proud to have earned that title. In most places, if you are born poor, you will stay poor and unable to get a good education or well-paying job. In America, upward mobility is something that many people want, which is why many people immigrate to America. My mother is from Spain, and moving to America helped her and many others to succeed.
and America gave them opportunities they may not have had anywhere else. Another reason I honor the flag is to salute the principles of justice. Everyone in America is treated equally, and we are raised on the fundamentals of freedom and justice. The final line of the Pledge of Allegiance even states, indivisible and with liberty and justice for all. America was founded on the core idea of justice and honor, and we need to continue keeping it that way. I also honor the flag because it stands for what unites us, not what divides us. America is a place where anyone can have any opinion about something and not be persecuted. During our Pledge of Allegiance, however, we all stand together as one. Unity is important to the United States, and Mahatma Gandhi said, unity to be real must stand the severest straight without breaking. Our country has gone through many hard times, but we always come back stronger than before and continue to improve. In short, our flag is a symbol with many meanings, but most importantly, it signifies the opportunities in our country, the principles of justice in America, and represents what unites us together. So, as I stand by the flag, right hand over heart, I remember and honor everything our flag stands for.
Thank you, Sophia. Sophia's received a $100 check from the VFW. One of the other contests that I mentioned is the Teacher of the Year. We go ahead and look for, nominate, and judge Teachers of the Year in Hampstead. Could come from the middle school, could be high school, it could be a Hampstead teacher teaching at Pinkerton or any of the surrounding schools. I'm honored to go ahead and announce the winner of this year's Hampstead VFW Teacher of the Year as your own Mr. Fisher.
We are always filled with surprises here at Hampstead Middle School. Wow, congratulations, Maestro.
Thank you.
And now, our closing remarks by Cheyenne Kay.
First off, we would like to thank all veterans for joining us today. We would also like to thank Commander Gassoy and the Pinkerton Junior ROTC for presenting the colors. It is an honor and a privilege to have you here with us. Refreshments will take place for our guest and student presenters in the cafeteria following the assembly. Now please rise for a performance of God Bless America performed by Zoe Sternberg and the retiring of the colors.
Please join with me while we sing God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, everyone. Could you rise as we have the retiring of the colors?
Color guard, hold. Left face. Nose. Right.